surprising cut, and I'm going to break it down here on Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trizzy Trace Gerard. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and make sure your notifications are on because football is back, baby. We're going live for Saints vs. Cardinals Week 1 on game day. Hope to see you guys there. So they cut a player. They signed 3. We're going to start off with the cut and then transition to the roster additions. First, the Saints waived special teams ace JT Gray, which was a very, very surprising move. He signed with New Orleans back in 2018 as an undrafted free agent out of Mississippi State, and he's been really, really effective for the Black and Gold, a 2-time first-team All-Pro, and he's a Pro Bowler. And during his career with the New Orleans Saints, 7 seasons, played just 153 defensive snaps at safety, but he was excellent on special teams. I do think that this is a very, very shocking move. And from what I understand, reports out there are suggesting that he has not been offered a spot on the practice squad, but he should be getting a lot of calls and getting a lot of interest across the league. Now, what does this mean? How does this impact the Saints? Why did Kellen Moore do this? Let's start off with the why. Kellen Moore is saying this was one of the hardest things that he's had to do so far. It was a challenging move. He's a really good special teams player, and he's a really, really good player. And at the end of the day, this comes down to roster flexibility. It was not related to that injury that he suffered. Remember, he was dealing with a hamstring injury earlier in the summer during training camp. And now that he's healthy, that's not a factor here, according to head coach Kellen Moore. The challenge of the injury was that it limited his exposure in training camp to the roster and to this coaching staff. So ultimately, the New Orleans Saints decide to part ways with a player who's been extremely effective in one of the big bright spots, in one of the few bright spots for this team over the last few years. Now, when it comes to the future, because we have to look ahead here, it does make me think that there is a lot of faith in some of this young talent. You know, the Saints did draft Jonas Sanker, and he had a phenomenal preseason. He was making plays, not just on the defensive side of football, but also in special teams too. Jordan Howden, he has been making some noise as well, and he's been a player that started off his NFL career making some noise and then kind of slowed down, was a little bit more quiet, but, you know, in my opinion, I think he's done a fine job of being a special teams guy, being a safety that can be rotated in. And, you know, even Rejzohn Wright comes to mind. Like, I think all 3 of those guys are not just contributors on the defensive side of the football, but can also be heavily involved on special teams too. You know, like with Jonas Sanker specifically, I thought that he has been a really, really impressive player. And I think that when you talk about where Kellen Moore, where Brandon Staley, where Mickey Loomis are taking this team, they're emphasizing, you know, making your own roster, but they're also leaning heavily on the guys that have had reps. Like, you know, for example, you look at the cornerback room, Isaac Yiadom is listed as a starter over Quincy Riley. And that is because the Saints decided to side with the experience there. So I'm shocked that the New Orleans Saints did end up moving on from JT Gray. Like I said, they made a couple of roster additions, and I'm going to tell you about those guys here in a little bit. But at the end of the day, like, this is going to be a loss. And I do think that you're going to notice JT Gray's presence missing early in the season, but hopefully the guys like I mentioned, Jonas Sanker, Jordan Howden, Rejzohn Wright, but then some of those other guys that can be contributors as well, can be effective and can make some noise on special teams. You know, when you talk about the depth in the safety room, I mean, obviously you have Justin Reed, Julian Blackmon as your starters, but Jordan Howden, Jonas Sanker, those are your backups. And then Ugo Amadi, Alontae Taylor. Obviously, I don't think you're going to see much of Alontae Taylor on special teams, but you could see a healthy dosage of Ugo Amadi in there because he has been a playmaker, and by no means has he been the best backup nickel in the world, but he has been somewhat reliable, and he's been a player that has at least earned the trust of the Saints coaching staff, which is evident by the fact that he continues to be brought back on the roster. Rejzohn Wright, Isaac Yiadom, Quincy Riley, Kool-Aid McKinstry, you have those guys around as well. Rico Payton, he is now with the New York Giants on their practice squad, so he is no longer available. But in terms of corners, you have Jaden Price. I could see him being a elevation on game day. He was more of a returner, but he contributed a lot during special teams. Dallas Beanham also could potentially be a contributor. Terrell Burgess and Elliott Davison. Those two guys, I should say those four guys are all on the practice squad. We're going to talk about the additions to the roster here in just one moment, but first got to tell you about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Went ahead and cooked up a little lineup for this week. Wanted to just share it with you. Kind of hard to read it, sorry, but still wanted to let you guys know. Dak Prescott more, half a passing yard. Come on, that's free money. Going to go ahead and include that. That's going to be a fun one. First game of the week. Absolutely excited for that matchup. Cowboys versus Eagles. And then I also got 2 Saints picks. And by Saints picks, I'm going with Blake Groupie, 1.5 field goals made. I'm taking the more. And then I'm taking Brian Brzee more on sacks, 0.5. Just need him to log 1. If I put down $20, I'm making 160 thanks to Prize Picks. If you want to get in on the action, I highly encourage you to download the Prize Picks app. Use code CLNS and you will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I absolutely love Prize Picks. It's super, super simple. It's super fun. And it's a really easy way to test your ball knowledge, turn it into cold hard cash. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. It's also the best way to get involved on the action in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. So go check out the #1 DFS app in the whole wide world. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Shout out to Prize Picks. I'm going to put the information and the links in the comments and description just to make it easy for you guys. So download the Prize Picks app. Use code CLNS. You'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Reminder, CLNS. Plug in that promo code and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to Prize Picks. Run your game. All of that information is available in the comments and description of this video. Now, when one window closes, other windows do open. So obviously JT Gray was the player the Saints cut. Now let's talk about the 3 guys that the New Orleans Saints brought in. For what it's worth, emphasis on these are practice squad additions. The New Orleans Saints have signed quarterback transition to wide receiver Tommy Malot, formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders, Montana State. Linebacker Iku Leota, he has also been signed. And defensive tackle Keziah Izzard. We're going to start off with the offensive side of the football. I want to talk Tommy Malot, a.k.a. Tommy Football, a.k.a. Friend of Chat Sports, has been on the Raiders Report. Shout out to Mitchell Renz. Now, what do you need to know about Tommy Malot? Dare I say he's the next Taysom Hill? I don't. But it is, something to talk about. This is a player who at Montana State was a quarterback. He had some pretty decent numbers, 63.7 career completion percentage, 6,000 total yards, 6,016 for what it's worth, 55 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a rating of 161.9. I mean, the dude has passing numbers, but listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. 2 seasons of over 1,000 rushing yards. He had a grand total of 488 carries, 3,517 yards, 43 touchdowns, an average of 7.2 yards per carry, and a long of 76 yards. Also can contribute as a receiving guy, 3 total catches, 20 yards, and a touchdown. When I consider Tommy Malot and I consider Taysom Hill, and I think about the word versatility, those are things that are very, very good indicators of a player potentially having a role. If they can do multiple things, then that is a player who could carve out a role and could carve out an opportunity for the New Orleans Saints. He was transitioned over to the wide receiver position this offseason, was a 6th-round pick by the Las Vegas Raiders. Ultimately, they obviously did not keep him around, but 5'11", 200 pounds, insane athleticism, had a 41-inch vertical leap, 10-foot 4-inch broad jump, 4.39 40-yard dash. The guy's explosive. The guy's an athlete. Very versatile, very multiple type player. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the next Taysom Hill, because that's not a fair expectation. And quite frankly, that's unfair to Taysom Hill. But what I will say is I think that this is a really exciting weapon and a really exciting tool for Kellen Moore to utilize. And, the longer he sticks around in New Orleans and shows that he can do a lot of different things, I think that Kellen Moore could really, really get excited and really creative with this player. And if I think about a team that knows how to utilize the versatility and the ridiculous amounts of skills that a singular football player has, the New Orleans Saints are a team that makes a lot of sense for Tommy Malot, considering the success that Taysom Hill has had with the black and gold. Again, I'm not saying he will be the next Taysom Hill. I'm just saying this is a guy who can do a lot of different things. He can contribute in a lot of different ways on the offensive side of the football. And for Kellen Moore, a guy who is a offensive guru, a very creative play caller, somebody who likes to tap into and appeal to the strengths of the roster that he has been given, that is an addition that I'm really, really excited about, really eager to see what he's capable of doing. And, for what it's worth, I wish that he was around during the preseason. I think it would have been fun to see what he could do on the roster. But he is on the practice squad, as well as Iku Leota and Keziah Izzard. So Iku Leota, he's a linebacker, 26 years old, was with the Pittsburgh Steelers to end last season, and then this year's training camp as well. So he's been around the Steel City, not black and gold, black and yellow, but, that's a different entire video that we could have. He did start his career in the NFC South, was a UDFA out of Auburn for the Carolina Panthers back in 2023, appeared in 11 games, and he has one start. I'm making sure I have my notes right. Yeah, he has 11 games, one start in 2 years with the Steelers and Panthers. 1 sack, 6 tackles for loss. Obviously, practice squad addition. I don't think that this is, any indicator of, oh my God, there's, some issues in the linebacker room. I actually think that that's the position that I'm the most confident in for the New Orleans Saints. But, nonetheless, an addition that has a little bit of experience. So, it's kind of nice to bring in more experience to the practice squad. I think that it only helps raise the overall talent level. I'm not saying that this is going to, help you win a Super Bowl by any means. This does not at all move the needle in terms of wins and losses, but nonetheless, still, I would say a, okay addition. I don't think that it's really anything that moves the needle, good, bad, or ugly for me. Keziah Izzard, defensive lineman, 23 years old, undrafted free agent out of Penn State. He actually had pretty productive career, 51 total games, 9 sacks, 17.5 tackles for loss, and 78 total tackles. He's 6'3", 305-pound interior defensive lineman, defensive tackle that spent time with the Chiefs and had 4 total tackles in 3 preseason games. So the New Orleans Saints adding some depth, adding some talent to the practice squad. Right now, they are at a total of 17 players, and I will read you the entire practice squad. Starting off with offense, you got Cedric Wilson and Kevin Austin Jr. at wide receivers. You have offensive guard Easton Kilty, tight end Jack Stoll, tight end Trayton Welch, 2 quarterbacks, Jake Haener and Hunter Deckers. And then the defensive side of the football, you have Fadil Diggs, Iku Leota, Jonah Williams, Keziah Izzard, Nephi Sewell, Jaden Price, Dallas Beanham, Terrell Burgess, Elliot Davison, and Charlie Smith. And for what it's worth, our lads, I'm going to just be totally transparent. Don't know a ton about Iku Leota, but has him listed as an edge rusher, so, potentially contribute as an edge rusher, not a true off-ball linebacker. But, just wanted to kind of get you informed. I know that it's a holiday. I know that it's actually pretty late. Have been out and about, celebrating the day off and kind of relaxing, enjoying my day with Maddie and Dude. So apologize for the late video, but still wanted to make sure I gave you guys content because Saints fans deserve the best coverage in the whole wide world. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you should subscribe. Get in the comment section too. Share your thoughts. What do you think about these moves? Do you agree with cutting JT Gray? Do you like the practice squad additions? Share your thoughts. I want to hear from you, Who Dat Nation. And we will be providing a lot of different content throughout the week. We got week 1 preview coming at you. We'll have all sorts of fun stuff. Going to be having a crazy week of content. So I encourage you, subscribe, turn on your notifications, give your boy a follow on social media, and y'all stay golden. It's game week, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.